always tell when a streak's going to come to an end. You win a couple of games, you probably shouldn't.
There are teams out there that could use that quality of playoff goaltending. All right, Ray, you ready to do this?
Yep, let's go.
Powered by Rev Media in partnership with TSN, it is season 7 of the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast. It is a Stanley Cup playoff edition presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. The Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back in the Stanley Cup playoff edition. Only in the Tim Hortons app, you play for free. You have a chance to win daily prizes for picking players who you think will score. Additionally, a grand prize of $5,000. And hey, Canadians, try and keep your 7-day streak alive. If you do that, you win free coffee or tea for a week, which, by the way, as we welcome in Ray Ferraro, is kind of hard to do during the Stanley Cup Final, right? I mean, there's only one game every other day. I mean, that 7-day streak is kind of tough. It's a 7-game series, and I don't think the NHL is going to extend that 7 games anytime soon.
No, let's certainly hope not. I found it hard enough when there were multiple games every night, because right now I'm at a streak of 0 free coffees for the season.
Too. Yeah, we're bumping along here, and we'll bring in Chris Abunia later for the Tim's Hockey Challenge, and it's going to be a tight race as the series continues going into Game 4. You're in Vegas. Have you had any downtime? Any blackjack table time, any sort of stuff like that?
Yeah, I played golf on Sunday. I had dinner with one of my cousins who we haven't seen each other for so long. Her and her husband are here. They're at a conference or whatever, and so I had a great dinner last night. I saw some of the lights were out, so I went and donated a little bit at blackjack, and I feel pretty good for helping Vegas along. And game today, and I probably have one more little round of blackjack left in me because the streak can't continue. I'm sure I'll win this time. No.
Yeah. Do you set? Are you a limit setter? Do you set the limit? You go in. You don't have to name the number. It's nobody's business how much you're willing to spend. But do you establish? Okay, I've got X number of dollars in my pocket. I am not spending more than that.
I would say I have a soft cap, and so because you know what happens, I'm telling you, I don't know if other blackjack players have this as well, but like I get a limit, and I'm like, okay, that's it, and I'm right at the limit, and then I get a 6 and a 5 against the 6.
Yeah,
and you got to double it, so I'm like,
sure,
hang on, and then back into the pocket and. So yeah, it's kind of a soft cap. Yeah.
Anybody that knows Ray Ferraro even a little bit appreciates this. No matter what you do, and I don't care if you're playing cards with your grandkids, you're a competitive dude. You're a competitive guy. So if
I'd like to be not. I'd like to try not to be. But.
Well, it's in your DNA. That's kind of how you're wired. But I've played a little bit. It might have been during the last Stanley Cup Final, right? With Vegas when we sat together at the blackjack table.
We did. Yes, we did.
Yeah. Well, you were very helpful because I'm an amateur blackjack player, and you at least say, I wouldn't do this or I wouldn't do that, or why don't you think of this? And like you're helpful. You're helpful.
Yeah, but the lousy part of that was you ended up with all the chips in front of you. And I'm like, he doesn't even know what he's doing.
Yeah, no idea. You remember the dealer saying to me, if I would have bet right, I would have made a whack of money. And I was like, what do you mean bet right? I don't know. Like, no, you're supposed to, add to your bet when you win. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going. Anyway,
you did not. You did not.
I did not do that. Oh, here we go again. The Stanley Cup Final is the focus, as it should be. Nothing is going to deter us from that. But during the off days, we've got plenty of fodder to keep us busy in the hockey world. So let's get to some of that in the headlines. Brought to you by the Canadian Brew House. Hey, real fans, you know the move. You get there early. Happy hour at the Canadian Brew House runs Monday to Saturday, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Skip the couch, hit the Canadian Brew House. It's your home for every puck drop, every goal, and every cheer. Now, I was with Ryan Rishaug in our coverage on TSN on Monday night, and near the end of our hit, talking about Mike Babcock, obviously, I I gave up the information that if you go back in X Twitter, I think it was May 20th, there was speculation out of Edmonton that, hey, maybe Mike Babcock could be a candidate for the head coaching job. I think it was Bob Stauffer who floated that idea and the pedigree of Babcock and all that. So, of course, I reach out to Babs and I say, hey, is there any chance that you could be a candidate? I don't have the text in front of me, but it was something along those lines, or should I address the speculation? And he literally said, Dregs, quote, Dregs, I'm retired and I'm loving it. So that was the 20th of May. So a lot can change in a short period of time. But now the Edmonton Oilers seem focused on hiring Babcock to replace Chris Knobloch as head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. There's some stuff that needs to get worked out, but it's certainly trending in that direction. So when the tweet went out that this was a possibility and highly likely, what was your immediate reaction to all of it?
Well, mine was that you just told us that he was retired.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I was like, well, I thought he said he was retired. And so
Yeah.
that was the first. The second is it seems in a lot of cases that coaches are fired and hired
Mhm.
in opposite of the previous one. Now that didn't happen in Vegas, right? Bruce Cassidy's a pretty hard driving guy, and we know what John Tortorella's reputation is, even though if he's changed a little bit or has brought a different tact here to Vegas. But Knobloch is quiet and not a bold personality, and of course, Babcock's the opposite of that. I guess I'm surprised that they would go down this road, given the way the it ended in Toronto, and then whatever the hell happened in Columbus before he even got on
Mhm.
the ice. Like I guess those two things to me made this quite surprising that they would consider Babcock.
Yeah, and if we unpack it a little bit more, as was reported, if you look at it from a players association perspective, the only reason that the PA would be consulted, and my belief is that the Oilers reached out to NHL head office, then NHL head office contacted the PA as a good partner and said, hey, here's what the Oilers are thinking. What are your thoughts? What's your reaction? This would be the players association, all right. Um,
Yeah.
and as I'm going through the due diligence on Monday, as we're reporting on this, I think part of the concern, if not a big part of it, is okay, well, Babcock never really faced the allegations of invasion of players' privacy, right? He resigned as head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, from a players' association perspective, do you want there to be an investigation? Does he need to face those sorts of things? And honestly, Ray, I think that's why, as we record this Tuesday morning here, we don't have a definitive that yes, he is going to be hired. He will be hired, I believe, by the Oilers, but as we're recording, there's still some due diligence that needs to be made. But in saying that, it's also important to note that top players. So you're talking about McDavid, you're talking about Draisaitl, you're talking about Zach Hyman, of course, who would have went to bat in communications with the Players Association on Babcock's behalf to say that this is a league of second chances. Stan Bowman's second chance. Joel Quenneville had to wait longer, but he's back on an NHL bench. There are players around the NHL who have had indiscretions. So the top players for the Oilers are going to bat. They're vouching for them. I don't recall another time, and maybe we're just not privy to it, where players have had this sort of influence, input, yes, but influence in hiring of a head coach or even a management position.
Yeah, I don't recall any. I would say it's. I mean, of course, you're talking about the top players, but the players that most often feel the wrath of Babcock are underneath the top players. And this goes back to Detroit, back to the early 2000s. Like that
Right.
is those guys really take the brunt of when there is force from Babcock. Um, so I don't think it's insignificant. Like I'd want to know exactly what is the line here. Like what is okay, because he's clearly pushed the envelope everywhere he's been. Pretty easily to go back to the Marner stuff in Toronto, or the stuff in Columbus. What I would be most interested in, once I get the detail of that, and of course, in some course, the Oilers will have that information if they don't have it already, but is what makes them think that Babcock's the right guy now? Because it imploded in Toronto with a pretty good team. Like it didn't. At the end of the day, he was not able to get them over the finish line. So now that he's a couple years older, do you think he's changed, or he's adjusted some of his techniques and ways that he speaks and discusses and teaches with the players? Like, do you think that's evolved, or is it the same Mike Babcock? Because the same Mike Babcock, won a Stanley Cup in 2008 and was widely regarded one of the best coaches in the game. But we're coming up on what is that, 16, 17, 8, oh, nice math, right? 18 years that
Yeah.
we're since that. So I think there's the hockey side would kick up some questions in the way that he would deal with the players, in the way that he would teach, not systematically, but how he would react in different spots. And that's up to them. But if he's cleared, he's cleared. I mean, it doesn't particularly matter what anybody else thinks. If they think he's the right guy ahead of the other guys, then they're going to hire him. I guess the other part to this is this must, to them, they must think they're not going to get a shot at Cassidy. That's what it must think to me. Like, because otherwise we're going into game 4 today. Why not wait 10 days? And
see, be sure.
The Golden Knights will be done one way or the other. They'll either win or they'll be a runner-up, and then you could have that discussion: will we have a green light to talk to Bruce Cassidy now? And if Vegas says no, then you could pivot. But I just I think if I'm this interested in Cassidy, I'm waiting 10 days, and then I'm going to pursue, because Mike Babcock's not going anywhere.
Right. Unless Edmonton has that information from the NHL.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
And we just don't
we wouldn't know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all want to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I would include Mike Babcock in that. And the reason I'm more willing to do that is because Zach Hyman, who's noted as being a high character individual, not just a great hockey player.
Yeah, very much so. Very, very much so.
Yeah. And for him to be as invested, given his experience with Babcock in Toronto, firsthand experience, right? Now, they've had a relationship, as was explained to me this morning, that dates back to his days in Michigan. Mike was the coach of the Red Wings. He used to go watch Michigan practice all the time. You look at the first few years of Zach Hyman in Michigan, he didn't do much, but he worked really, really hard. And that was what impressed him on Babcock. And then Dylan Larkin shows up in Michigan, and Larkin has a good year, and Zach Hyman pops offensively. And anyway, it's a long story between Hyman and Babcock. But I would think that it would even go without saying, wouldn't it? Like Hyman, McDavid, Draisaitl, the leaders of that team aren't going to let anything happen that isn't above board. And I wouldn't think they would. They're not putting their own necks on the line unless they think this is the guy that is going to help us hoist that Stanley Cup. And we'll have to pay attention.
Yeah. I guess, except you're not the watchdog, right?
Fair.
You're the player.
Yeah, you're there to play.
So look, Drake, you've known Mike Babcock for 30 years, right? Do you think at his core, Mike is going to change in the way that he sees the game, sees the player, sees the direction of what his current team would be? Because I don't. I think Mike is a bulldozer. He's a steamroller. And I think he's a smart coach. I think he is a tactically incredibly strong coach.
Yeah.
But I see like one way, and
Yeah.
those guys, those top guys are not going to bear the brunt of it.
Yeah.
They really
Yeah.
aren't. It's going to be the rest of the team. And part of that is then Bowman's got to go find better players because they don't have a good enough team
Right.
around those great, great players.
Yeah.
They've got the great players. They don't have a team. Look at these two teams in the finals. They are teams. They're they probably do not have all-star rosters, but they are
Mm-hmm.
teams. And that has to be, at the end of the day, that has to be the determination. Can he build that, help build that in Edmonton with the help of McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman, and because those are the top of the roster players.
Okay. All right. Well, we will be talking about this likely in our next podcast, because at that point we'll have a definitive path as to whether Babcock is about to be
Yep.
named. He's been cleared. All of that. Let's go to Toronto. And a curious name surfaced this week. And it just, I mean, we know the NHL pro sports in a lot of ways, Ray, is a copycat, right? So it works here. Maybe it'll work there, right? So Marty St. Louis, the Montreal Canadiens, go to the Eastern Conference Final. They fall to the Carolina Hurricanes. Joe Pavelski's name surfaces as, I would call him a top candidate in Toronto, because now they're down to 5 men, I believe, 5 guys in the second round of the interviewing process. Patrick Waugh would be another. So when you think of Joe Pavelski, do you automatically go, "Ooh, I can see this"? I mean, it worked for San Luis. Maybe it doesn't work the same type of way. But when I think of the hockey player, the 18-year career of Joe Pavelski, how hard I watched him work on his craft, the leader that he was, all of those things, I can see him at some point being a good coach. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I do, but I thought the same thing with Marty. Is that, man? He's coaching bantam hockey. How can he coach an NHL team? Well, pretty
Yeah.
clearly you've got the
Yeah.
aptitude for it or not, or you've got the personality or you don't. Tomas Hertl went 29 games without a goal somehow this year, like
Mm-hmm.
right through into the playoffs. I'm not even sure how that would happen for a player of his quality. In any case, somewhere in there, he ends up on a 30-minute phone call with Joe Pavelski. Pavelski calls him. They talk for 30 minutes. Since then, Hurdle's got 6 goals in, I think, 6 goals in 12 games or 5 goals in 10 games. Like, he reached out, and whatever they talked about,
Yeah.
like that, to me, you ask about coaching mindset at all, and clearly he must have some of that. He was incredibly respected as a player. His work ethic was really above reproach. He was thought of like, this is a 7th round pick that was never fast enough, never strong enough, and he played 18 years because
Yeah.
he's smart. He figured the game out. Now, does that make a good coach? I don't know. Like, how would I know? But in the few times I've talked to Joe, he is really an impressive person. And the reason he wasn't coaching right away is 18 years, time to go home, settle down with the family, and
Mm-hmm.
and be around instead of getting on the treadmill that is coaching. So when I read his name, I was quite surprised because I didn't even know he was at
Yeah.
that, would be in that part. And but when I think of it, um, his acumen, his IQ for the game, his ability clearly to discuss and understand other players, I think is really interesting. And then he'll get into these interviews and they'll find out if he's ready in their
Mm-hmm.
estimation to coach. Also, the other thing is when you say they look at other, Montreal is not an easy place.
No.
Like, if you watch Marty St. Louis do his pressers every day, it's in English, it's in French, it goes back and forth. The
Yeah.
Canadians are as pressure filled a market as there is, and that would be some of the same things that Pavelski would have to deal with.
Right. But in many ways, San Luis has blazed the trail, right? Because
Yes,
otherwise,
sure.
and I like Pavelski, I'm told, wants the job. I mean, you don't tiptoe into a process like this. You have to feel confident that despite the fact that you don't have professional coaching experience, you've got the brain, the mind to, and you'd flank yourself with experience and all of that. But I don't think you even consider this if you're John Chaika and the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you haven't watched a success story develop with Marty St. Louis in Montreal,
Mhm.
do you?
Oh, I don't think so. The one difference is when St. Louis went in there, they were at the base of a rebuild, right? They were at the
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
start of it. He had a long relationship with Kent Hughes, who was his agent,
Long
and
time. Yeah.
they basically said, I mean, he didn't coach for free, but they basically said, "Why don't you come here and try it for the end of the year? And if
Yeah.
it works, then we'll look at this past this." And Marty was totally fine with that because he
Mhm.
didn't know either. But I guess it wasn't very long that they were like, "Oh, he's like Kent and Jeff
Yeah.
Gorton," and
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh, he's really good." And so
Yeah.
almost like found money, and that thought would be the same with Pavelski. Joe is also, when you watch him play, and the few times, as I mentioned, talking to him, he's a really confident guy, but he's
Yeah.
not he's not outwardly in your face, me, confident me. He just is. Some guys just have that demeanor of a quiet confidence, and Pavelski has it.
All right, we'll get to game 4 here coming up, but there's so much stuff happening off the ice. Another just newsbreaker, Dylan Larkin asking for a trade. Helene
Hmm.
St. James reported on Monday that Larkin's trade list targets 3 teams: Minnesota, Florida, and Vegas. So really no surprise with any of that,
Hmm.
right? You know, you
No.
think of Team USA especially. So there's a deep connection there with the Minnesota Wild. Florida and Vegas, most top players want to end up in either Vegas or Florida for a myriad of reasons,
Yeah.
financially and otherwise. So first of all, before we get into the best fit, if there is, and he may have to expand that list, right? I mean, I think of Florida, they're pretty solid at center ice, and maybe there isn't a fit there. Vegas always finds a way to juggle these great players and make the cap work. Maybe they can't do it this time. How surprised were you to learn that Dylan Larkin had asked for a trade out of Detroit?
Oh, I mean, I would have no reason to think that that would be on the tip of his tongue, and it also tells me that, like, he didn't wake up on Monday morning and say,
No, yeah,
so this is brewing in his head, and I would say, the year after year of missing the playoffs, and then last year at the year end saying, we were disappointed, we were hoping for more help at the deadline.
yeah.
In your own mind, and I'm not in Dylan's, of course, but if that were me, and I'm making that statement, I'm already thinking, at least subconsciously, about what it might be like to be in a playoff race, to be in the
Mhm.
playoffs, to play somewhere else. And another year, another March collapse. Um, it's 10 years, and you know, maybe just had enough. And so, but those discussions I would think would have started earlier with his agent and trying to get his head around it from his own perspective. I was shocked. I am most of
Yeah.
the time when somebody asks to be dealt like this. But it is clearly a new order, and this would not have happened 10 years ago, even certainly not when I played. But this is this is something to be dealt with, and I know there's a little bit of, because of Quinn Hughes did it, that this would be the way, but that seems to be more like, would Americans want to leave Canada to play?
Mhm.
And of course, this isn't the case. It's wanting to leave to try to go to a playoff contender.
I mean, they'll get good return for Dylan Larkin. Maybe even more so if he's willing to expand his list beyond 3. Probably not. Why would he? Um, But
then you get
talk
into a
about
game of chicken, though. Then you get into a
yeah,
game of chicken
yeah,
because,
yeah. They don't have
you
to
know,
trade him.
they do not, and they do not have to take a lousy deal. And
Yeah,
if they can't get legit compensation for what they think Larkin is worth, then why would Steve make that deal right away?
mm-hmm.
Why would Yzerman do it? You would wait and try and, and try and wait out the other teams. Pretty clearly, Minnesota would have interest. And
Yeah,
we've seen the
yeah,
names that are tossed around already. And I don't know, is that a name or those
yeah,
names? Um,
yeah,
I think of Florida and I'm like, well, there's got to be a centerman going back, but I don't know their prospects. Here's the other
yeah.
part. Do you think Detroit's interested in players that are part of a rebuild? Come on,
No,
man. They've been at it for 10
no.
years. They're looking for, I would think, would want some certainty in the now. And so does
Mm-hmm.
that become Anton Lundell?
Yeah,
And it's got to be one of them. It's not
yeah.
going to, they've got the ninth pick in the draft. Um, but what if, I guess I thought yesterday, what if it is some package around a Lundell, who I think
Mm-hmm.
is a very, very good player, and the number 9 pick, but that
Mm-hmm.
number 9 pick is already in motion to somewhere else for a player.
Another player that helps you in Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll get more complicated before
Yeah.
it gets finalized, but this is certainly significant stuff.
Yeah. I mean, Larkin is what? He's a number 1 in Detroit, but a number 2 on most
He's a
teams.
2. He's a 2.
Yeah.
In my mind, he's a 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. Talk about a turn of events for Yzerman and the Detroit Red Wings. But I also can appreciate it from Larkin's perspective too, right? Like, here's a guy who's been in the league long enough where he's like, all right, I'm looking after my career. I might not win a popularity contest. It's my home state, essentially my hometown. I've given as much as I can. So it's time. And there's probably never a great time to do it, right? So certainly one of the top stories going into the offseason, and just creates, I always think that the draft, even though it's decentralized, the environment of the draft is an absolute feeding frenzy now for this type of stuff. These bigger trades that don't, just include the swapping of draft picks. More of that happens on day 2 of the draft, but just the reality of key top players potentially being in play. And now we know certainly one of them is in play in Dylan Larkin. All right, game 4 tonight, Ray. So Stanley Cup Final has been as entertaining, at least in my opinion, as I can recall. I mean, you must have been vibrating at varying points of game 3. I mean, there were so many twists and turns. Was it one of those where you're sitting there going, I can't believe what's happening right before my eyes, especially how
Yeah.
it started and then ultimately how it unraveled for Vegas to force it into overtime.
Well, the first period, Carolina was really good. Vegas had 2 shots. They played a great road period. So there was nothing to indicate that the second period was going to happen. Don't forget, Vegas scored 6 times in the second period.
That's
They had
right.
2 of them taken away. I mean, the net was full. And at some point I said, clearly, in my opinion, Detroit or Carolina's going to get Freddie Anderson out of the net here. They'll play Bussy in the third period just to get him a period off. The game's gone. So my favorite comment that I made during the game was, I don't know, about 13 or 14 minutes left. And I said, Carolina can't wait for game 3 to be over. They're looking forward to game 4 because it turned out so well. Right. And then all of a sudden it's in 39 seconds, it's 4-3. And I'm like, holy crap. Like that. It was lunacy. And you know what's crazy? In this series, in 3 games, each team has scored at least 3 goals in a row consecutively twice each. Twice each in 3 games. I thought this was going to be a bunch of 3-1 and 3-2 games. This has been as unpredictable and exciting as you could possibly imagine. And I don't know if I think most people felt they were kind of like 50-50-ish teams.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
had Vegas, some people had Carolina. I had Carolina in 7. And but for it to play out like this is um is enjoyably shocking to me. Like it I just did not see this.
Yeah. What were the benches like? Like, was Carolina quiet when Vegas was building that lead, and then it started to flip after that third goal? Obviously
Uh,
by the Hurricanes. I mean, was there organized chaos? Like, what was going on at ice level?
well, when Vegas was, taking the 4-0 lead, there was real frustration, right, from Carolina. They're like, like when you're sitting there, the game disappears on you so quickly. The
Yeah.
players are they're frustrated. They cannot believe they're in this hole. And then there was really no panic or anything on the Vegas bench. I think because it happened so fast. It's like
Yeah.
somebody walking up and punching you in the face, and you're like, "Oh, what just happened?" It is 4-3, and then they had to get back to play. And but they did not panic. The energy on Carolina's bench, though, like it just exploded because there was nothing, and then there
Yeah.
was something. The other thing that was really interesting is Will Carrier came out of the game with about 5.5 minutes left in the second period. He's banged up. We had a couple of good shots of him. It's something to do with like his upper body.
Yeah.
And so they were with 11 forwards. And so, Brindamore's moving lines around. So he's constantly in motion anyway. And so there was a lot of energy on the
Yeah.
Carolina side. And it was really cool to see, because once it got to 4-4, you're like this is incredible that we're going to go to overtime. Like, just unbelievable. And
Yeah.
I was, like I said, I was just completely pleasantly shocked with how it went. It was unreal.
It was so fun to watch. Unless you're Vegas, and especially Mitch Marner. I mean, talk about a performance by an individual player
Mm,
that almost went sideways pretty quick. I mean, there's nothing more he could have done offensively
yeah.
to drive the Vegas Golden Knights into the 2-1 series lead. But what a game. What a performance. And one of
Uh,
those where, of course, he's super highly skilled. We get that. Elite level
mm,
skill. Understand that. But players like that have that game every once in a while, don't they? It's not always in the Stanley Cup
mm.
Final. Seldom is it in the
Most
Stanley Cup
I was just
Final.
going to say, most times it's not, man.
Yeah.
You know where clearly he's at the peak of his NHL playing right now, because of the importance and
Yeah.
you know the timing of this run he's on. 28 points he's got. The 10 shots he had, to me, stood out more
Yeah.
than it might if it were somebody. I mean, 10 shots is crazy anyway, but I never think of him as a shooter.
No.
He's always, he's a facilitator. He's a passer. I mean, Brett Howden's got 13 goals, and in large part because he's playing with Marner. He's getting pucks in places to shoot them, and he's capitalized. The game was a phenomenal game, start to finish, from him.
Mm.
Marner was outstanding. What I can't figure out is how the hell did he not know they change goalies? I don't get it. Like, when I would come on the ice, and after a period like that, first thing I do is look down at the other net, because you have a sense they might change goalies, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you would think he would have noticed this guy catches with the other hand. The other part to this is, early in the period, he had a spin around or turn around half slap shot that Bussy stopped.
Yeah.
Did he not notice him then? Like, I can't believe it, because I always think of him as really aware of what's going
Mm.
on the ice. I'm like, they don't look anything the same in the
No.
net. Like, so anyways, that'll be part of the lore, I guess, of his game 3 performance.
Do you have any sort of feeling, gut instinct, what to expect? Whether it turns into a best of three, does Vegas now appreciably have the edge beyond a one goal? Like, what's your sense going into this one?
Okay, like I said earlier, I picked Vegas, or geez, man, I picked
Carolina, yeah.
Carolina in seven, and
Yeah.
so I still think it's going to go there. So I'm going to say Carolina's going to win today, because if I look at the first three games, even though there's been moments where Vegas has been way better, there's also been moments where Carolina's controlled the game.
Right.
We've got 3 1-goal games, back-to-back overtime games. How could anybody have an edge other than it's 2-1 Vegas?
Right.
So
Yeah.
the biggest question, of course, for game 4 is Bussy or Anderson in goal. I thought immediately, because Brindamore took him out, that was the plan, to play him in game 4, Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Then I flipped, and after Bussy played so well, and thought, I think it'll be Bussy. This morning, I think it's Anderson. Now, but that's just my feel. I have no insight, or like inside insight, but I don't know. My gut tells me it's Anderson.
All right. Well, it could be a factor, obviously. I mean, Carolina hasn't had to rely on both guys until this point. You know, Freddie Anderson has been such a big story for the Hurricanes to this point. All right, sir. Well, those are your headlines. Thank you to the Canadian Brew House. And we'll have much more, of course, as the stories around the National Hockey League continue to unfold later this week.
It feels like Tim Hortons has always been part of my routine, certainly as a dad, as a coach, or taking my kids to the early morning hockeys. Had to go through the drive-thru and get my cup of coffee and get the Timbits for the kids. Can I get a medium coffee with milk, please? Then even driving into studio now at TSN, if I don't go through the drive-thru, get my medium coffee with milk, I feel like my routine has been interrupted.
Here's your coffee.
Thank you.
Have a great day, guys.
You too. Only way to start a day.
Let's bring in Chris Sabunia. So, start of the podcast, we talked about the Tim's Hockey Challenge and how we're kind of floundering along. At least that describes where I'm at. Still a very tight race. So, Zuby, how tight is it?
It's a tie game. Ray's been waiting for this segment, I think, all show. He's
so happy.
He's
excited. So happy.
So Ray got one in game 3. Who did you actually have?
Martinook.
Oh, very good. And off the board, not one of the because there were some of the other guys that scored, I believe, there were some others available. So that's a good one.
Yeah, I just think that eventually, like, he scored 12 goals this year. And I'm like, he's just on the average, and how hard he plays, he's about due to punch one in. And his was the first goal that got the comeback best. So another one, click it on the board.
Yeah. So that puts us into a tie. That's a tie at the top now. Ray and I with 10 each so far in these playoffs. Dregs has 9. It's right there. We know we got at least 2 more games left in this series.
Yeah.
And
where's Ryan at?
He has not moved. He's hitting at 2% by my count, which is 1 out of 51. So
I can see why TSN sent him out to cover this series. It's that insight and knowledge.
That's right. Yeah, it's the predictive knowledge, certainly. So.
Yes, it really is.
We're gonna go to the wire here, fellas. This is exciting.
Right to the wire.
This is the reminder. I don't think I'm sending another reminder. This is the reminder.
No.
Make your
I'm
picks.
already in. I'm in. I'm locked in.
Me too. My picks are locked in, Zuby.
Then it's just on me.
All right.
Done.
And you won't forget. You're the only one that's got it's got focus. You'll get it in.
You can guarantee. I mean, Ray's busy. He's actually doing the game, but if one of my guys scores, you guys will be hearing about it.
Okay.
Perfect. I love it. I like the in-game updates. I love
too.
them.
Yeah.
All right, Zuby. Thank
Thanks,
you.
fellas.
Chris Sabunia on the Tim's Hockey Challenge. It is going to come right down to the last game of the Stanley Cup Final. That's what it's going to do. Okay, so you're off. You're getting ready for the massage, and then
Yep, I
all
got
the
a massage
pregame
this morning, which I
festivities.
don't normally get that. I'm like, I need one. I think I need a reset because we're going down the stretch here, as
Yeah,
they say in the horse racing, right? Down the
yeah,
stretch they come. Looking forward
yeah.
to Game 4. This is going to be so fun. I hope everybody's enjoying the finals. Lots to talk about, lots to watch still, and thanks for listening, Dregs. Have a great day. We'll see you in Raleigh, right?
You will see me in Raleigh. I jump on a plane.
Oh,
on
you
Wednesday.
can buy me dinner. You
I
can buy me
you.
dinner.
I'll buy you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. We'll check back on Wednesday when I see you in North Carolina.
You betcha. Have a great day. Couple days, everybody. Talk soon.
You bet. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support us here on the Rain Dregs podcast. Our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, thank you. Thank you to the Canadian Brew House. Enjoy Game 4, and until next time, stay safe, everybody.